Today we're talking about the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors and the trade that almost happened. Giannis is sounding like he may be leaving and New York might be a possibility. Adam Silver is not happy with James Harden and the demands he made. Cam Whitmore says he wants to dunk on Giannis or LeBron. Is that something he's gonna do? And finally, Brandon Ingram is not expected to sign an extension with the Pelicans. It's the Hoops Nerd News Show, or whatever we're calling this. Let's get into it. All right, the first story comes from the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors. It looks like when those trade talks were happening, that Kobe Bufkin was maybe the thing that kept that trade from happening. From Mike Scotto, he says, while talks for Siakam centered around DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, and draft compensation never materialized, there was a young player the Hawks didn't want to include that's worth noting should the teams revisit trade discussions. The Hawks were unwilling to part with the rookie guard Kobe Bufkin in trade talks for Siakam, league sources told Hoops Hype. It's interesting, Kobe Bufkin had an up and down summer league, but it's obvious that the Hawks are interested in Kobe Bufkin and are excited about his potential. It's also interesting that we're hearing this news about Toronto and Pascal Siakam, which has quietly been the most interesting and maybe most likely trade that's going to happen for Pascal Siakam with Toronto. With all the talks about James Harden, all the talks about different trade possibilities, this right here is the trade that might actually happen. And it looks like if the Hawks are willing to add Kobe Bufkin in a trade package, the Toronto Raptors might be willing to do it. The thing that's hard for the Hawks is that Pascal Siakam's on an expiring, and you might not be sure that Pascal Siakam re-signed. That's the difficult thing for the Toronto Raptors to make a trade for Pascal Siakam. My guess is they probably just re-sign him at some point. Next, we have a quote from Giannis where he says, if there is a better situation for me to win the Larry O'Brien, I have to take that better situation. Let's take a look at the tape.
As long as we play and we approach the game every single day the right way and we all sacrifice for a common goal, I can see myself being in Milwaukee Bucks for the rest of my career. But the moment I feel like people are not committed as I am to get that golden pin in the back, I am not. I'm a Milwaukee Buck, but most importantly, I'm a winner. I want to win, and I have to do whatever it takes for me to win. And if there's a better situation for me to win the Larry O'Brien, I have to take that better situation.
So I think basically we hear from Giannis that he could go both ways. Bucks fans have heard this before. Any team that's been in a small market has had the national media try to move that player to a different place. What Giannis is doing here is basically giving himself an out. If he doesn't feel like the Milwaukee Bucks do everything they can win the championship, he's not going to stay in Milwaukee his whole career if he sees the Milwaukee Bucks pulling a Portland Trail Blazers where they had traded all these players, they tank for young prospects, but don't actually really go anywhere. If that type of situation happens in Milwaukee, you can bet that Giannis is going to go somewhere else. And we've heard rumors from people like Bill Simmons saying something like he thinks the New York Knicks are going to make a trade at some point in the next year. And if that happens, it could be for Giannis. Maybe the Bucks, if they know that Giannis is going to leave, they might make a trade happen. And that is something that's very likely to go down. And I actually think that might be the situation. If the Bucks don't win the title this year and Giannis wants out, he seems like the type that could do a solid to Milwaukee, allow them to make a trade so that he can go to another winning situation. Although who knows, maybe this is the villain arc for Giannis and he just leaves Milwaukee with nothing and goes to a winning situation, because if you make that trade to go somewhere else, you're likely taking away all the good players from the team you're going to. Next, we have Adam Silver saying he's not in favor of the trade demands made by James Harden and Damian Lillard. He says, I don't like them as a league. I want players and teams to both honor their contracts. I'm watching everything going on in Portland and Philadelphia and hoping they get resolved and to everyone's satisfaction. I'm glad it seems to have calmed down as far as public discourse. This is a weak statement by Adam Silver. I don't like the idea of him just being happy that everything calmed down, because guess what? This is going to keep on happening. We saw that James Harden got fined $100,000 already for some of his comments, and we'll see what happens with Damian Lillard. But it's obvious this is not a good thing for the NBA. If players just sign max contracts and then the following year they're just demanding trades to the teams they actually want to go, it's not good. It's players wanting their cake and wanting to eat it too, or whatever that metaphor is. Either way, it's not good. The NBA has to figure out a way that if a player signs with their team, they stay with that team. And the NBA has instilled some new rules this year with players resting, because they also have a problem with players not wanting to actually play basketball basketball, but this is something to watch. I don't know if Adam Silver is going to do a lot with this because he's been a weak commissioner on a lot of these issues, and I don't really see him doing much. Next, we heard from Cam Whitmore that he wants to dunk on Giannis and LeBron. Let's see what he has to say.
Who are you looking forward to getting your first poster on, and who are you looking forward to locking down on D?
I would say first poster gotta be like Giannis or LeBron. Then I'll say locking down on D squad.
It's pretty big words from Cam Whitmore, who showed us some high-flying dunks in the Summer League. There's no doubt he can do this. The question is, will he get on the floor? Is he going to even have opportunities to do this? And now LeBron and Giannis have watched this, and you know what? I'm all for it. I want to see it. If Cam Whitmore can dunk on Giannis or LeBron, that's a huge thing. And who says he can't? But wouldn't it be fun to see Giannis go up against Cam Whitmore and see what happens? It's what makes the NBA fun. I want to see it. Finally, some interesting news from Brandon Ingram in the New Orleans Pelicans. He says he is not expected to sign the extension this summer. From Christian Clark, he says multiple sources tell the Times-Picayune, however you say that Ingram will wait until next summer before engaging in extension talks with the franchise that acquired him in the Anthony Davis trade 4 years ago. This is interesting. I don't think there's a lot to this. A lot of these players will do this to make sure they get an opportunity to get the most money possible. Brandon Ingram is a really good player, and he was a solid part of Team USA who did fall short. He had some ups and downs with that team, but we've seen him be an all-star in the past, and he is going to get money somewhere. And one of the most difficult positions to add in the NBA is having big, long wings that can score in isolation, can pass the ball. Brandon Ingram can do those things. The question has always been kind of his defense and how good he can be defensively. But you can bet there are teams that are going to be watching this situation. If things go south with the Pelicans, if Brandon Ingram gets offended that he's not gotten the contract he wants, then he might book it. And this could also include Zion Williamson. If Zion Williamson doesn't play again, does Brandon Ingram just decide that he wants to go? I wouldn't put it against him if that's what he wants to do. It's a good decision if he wants to win. And honestly, probably the smart thing to do, because who knows what's going on with Zion Williamson. 2 years, he hasn't played. Brandon Ingram hasn't been able to earn an all-star bid in those 2 years. If he can just play well and Zion Williamson is healthy, this Pelicans team is really good. But that's what we've been saying the last 2 seasons. Who knows if that actually happens? Guys, that's all the news today. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I will talk to you the next time.